Hello, everyone. Hi, Amir. How are you doing today?
Alex, good. How are you?
Good too, good too. Where are you based? In
I'm
Portugal?
based in sunny Lisbon, Portugal. Yes,
Okay. So it's kind of you're experiencing the real summer, right? It should be quite hot.
it is quite warm, but it's always sunny, mostly warm. So it's getting there. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm right now in the Netherlands, so I've recently moved here, and it's starting to be way better because before that it was freaking cold. I have to say, 12, 14 degrees Celsius, and so it wasn't so good at all, and also extremely cold too, wind.
No, it's
So
here.
yeah,
It's like around 25, so it's pretty warm.
yeah, it's pretty warm. Okay, but right now it's quite good as well. It's 25, and so it's getting better. It's getting better. Okay, guys. Well, first of all, my name is Alex and I'm your host, and I want to welcome to the seventh episode of the SERPs of the Week podcast, where we discuss what goes into ranking higher for a specific search term. And I have a pleasure to introduce our today's podcast guest, Amir Shahzeidi. Am I right in pronouncing it?
Yeah, Amir, good, but good effort for my last time. It's Shahzeidi, but
Okay, tell
that
me,
was
tell
that
me
was
how
solid effort.
tell me how it should be now.
It's Shahzeidi.
Sorry. Okay. Okay, but I was quite close.
That
Anyway,
was very close.
yeah. Okay, Amir, head of demand generation at Uscreen, combines his deep SEO expertise with innovative demand generation strategies to improve brand visibility and boost business growth. Having previously worked as SEO lead and head of search, he specializes in revenue marketing, focusing on strategies bringing tangible financial results. Amir's mission is to empower brands and creators to thrive in the digital landscape, utilizing SEO demand generation as powerful tools for success. Amir, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Alex. Great to be here.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Okay, I know that you are a professional piano player, right?
I am.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know. I did in my life a serious attempt actually to get a degree, and basically in piano classes, right? But something went wrong, right? So basically, here's a question to you. Maybe none of them actually correct, but you can choose whatever you prefer, and I'll tell you the real story.
All right, this is tough, but I'm gonna go maybe for D.
Yeah, my poor neighbors. My poor neighbors. I had been trying my best, really. Kind of, I did, I think, 2 or 3 years, but then I realized, and I was kind of a kid at both, basically. My parents made a decision, right? But that was horrible. The only thing that I really enjoyed staying, in school after classes because it was in the evening and playing, with teammates. That was the most enjoyable part. And then they were kind of, come to a classroom to play piano, and that was the horrible part when everything was falling apart. But what
um,
about your kind of, right? Basically, your passion. Why did you decide to play piano, right? So tell us a little bit about this.
Also, my story was that I started with guitar and classical guitar,
Ah,
but I was very young and it started hurting my fingers. And we had also a piano at home, so I decided that I don't like guitar because it makes my fingers bleed. So I thought piano is easier because it doesn't hurt my fingers the way the guitar did. So I started playing piano, but yeah, I mean, like throughout my just growing up, I think I grew up in a somewhat musical family. My mother was very into music, and I just played piano all the time, and then studied in the conservatory,
okay.
music and composition, and then as a young artist, I needed money, and I had done gigs before in content marketing and SEO, and in my early 20s, I started like working more in marketing and
Interesting.
SEO. So sort of and I had, I guess, somewhat of a talent for that as well. So sort of transitioned into marketing slowly.
Oh, that is interesting. So you basically, but you've never circled back to, to your initial career, right? So that was kind of a career switch, right? Or you're still kind of trying to, I don't really know, maybe sell some music or something like that, or it's kind of, a completely different story.
Yeah, I'm looking at it less as business, more as like maybe hobby. I feel like a lot
Mm,
of marketers I've seen, like they do like to be creative and do some sort of arts, and for
mhm.
me, it's more now hobby. As much as I have time for it, like I try to do it.
Well, I have at least two more stories, similar stories. So do you know Lucas Железny?
I don't think so.
Okay, you can he also was on our podcast, but basically his story is quite similar. But he kind of he wanted to be a professional DJ, right? And he was kind of also, and he still actually does quite a lot. He kind of publish some of his let's say like compositions, right, on Facebook, for instance. And he also basically started to do SEO content marketing as a side thing, right, in order to support his main initiative. And literally the same story about Tim from HS.
Ah, interesting. Yeah,
He was actually in his hometown. He was a quite popular DJ. And my colleague actually, Alina, her basically her husband, right? He was actually at school with Tim.
very
And
interesting.
so, yeah, and so
Yeah,
basically
I
that's
think what we
how.
can learn is that art doesn't pay. Maybe SEO does.
Well, not really the best summary. I would say like that. If you're into art, right, it's kind of you'd better switch to SEO just because it's never going to happen, right? Chances are quite low.
Yes, it is. It is.
But I think
Both are very
nowadays, when
difficult.
it comes to SEO, it's also not so easy actually to build up your career just because the competition is so high, right? So
I
I
think
think,
so. Yeah, I think it's definitely more difficult to get started, and also I feel like less entry level positions in SEO. I feel like more people are hiring for higher level already people with experience, which like doesn't leave a lot of room for new talent to come in.
yeah, yeah, I have similar feelings about this. By the way, circling back, right, to content marketing, content creation, right? Since Uscreen is basically a platform for content creators, right?
That is
I
true.
wonder, yeah, and that is quite interesting, actually. There is kind of, some touching points, right, between
Yes.
between basically, right, being whatever it is, right, and then if you want to sell yourself, you have to start actually creating content, right, which is quite logical. And my main question is, how big is the content creation market nowadays? Since you screen the part of this market, right, and you know better than others, right, about the current state of this market.
I think really the sky is the limit when we're talking about content creation. If we're talking about content marketing for businesses,
Mm-hmm.
both written content and video content are just like, I think we're at the start. There's so much more that's going to
Mm-hmm.
happen, and I think more and more businesses will find more values in both written content and especially video content. I think especially with video content, we've seen in the past maybe 4 or 5 years how much more
Mm-hmm.
businesses are investing in video, whether that's live streams or YouTube
Mm-hmm.
content. And if you're talking about overall content creation, creator economy is booming. It's one of the biggest industries and it's probably here to stay. More content creators are like becoming entrepreneurs. They're not just creating content, they're building businesses through their content. Of course, Uscreen is a video membership platform. We host a lot of video creators who want to launch their own branded video membership. And we know through the past 5 years, there's definitely been a lot of trends, especially uh, impact of pandemic. I think a lot more businesses and creators started creating more content and putting out more content. So I think there's gonna be a massive surge, as also this data shows, in content creation, and it's gonna just continue to grow.
Yeah, I agree. I think the market is basically, it's kind of also still growing, in my opinion, just because there are certain type of businesses, right, that used to rely heavily on traditional, right, sources of marketing. I mean, like not on the web, right? And for instance, in the US, right, still a lot of businesses, they're heavily investing into direct mail, for instance, right? And that used to be one of the best ways, I would say, reaching out to your target audience, sending basically advertising through direct mail. And with with taking into consideration this fact, right, and I've recently moved to the Netherlands, but I've already started to receive a significant amount through spam of printed spam, basically, right, in my physical mailbox. So and it's kind of, it tells me, right, that there are still quite a lot of businesses, right, that prefer, right, to use more traditional channels, right, but sooner or later they will switch also, or start at least equally, right, invest into also digital marketing channels, right. And whenever you want to create an advertisement, for instance, you still need to create content, right, because how you can advertise your brand without setting up a proper landing, for instance, right? So I
That
think,
is so true. Yeah.
so I think, it's still kind of growing because not all businesses have, moved right to the internet, let's say.
I think one of the
Mm-hmm.
bigger spikes or like adoption that we saw was because of the pandemic. We saw that for the 2 years, like for better
Mm-hmm.
half of the first maybe year, um, a lot of businesses had to shut down, from your
Mm-hmm.
local bookshop to a lot of even restaurants and other
Mm-hmm.
local stores, brick and mortar shops had to close down and they had to go online. Now, the ones that had already an e-commerce or online
Mm-hmm.
presence, they were ahead of the curve. They still continue to have their sales, at least to some extent, online. But the ones that didn't, they had to go online. And for them to stay competitive, they will have to also create content. They will have to spend advertising money. But what we know that potentially the majority of those businesses that went online, they're not gonna they take their website offline or just remove that from their business because it definitely brings them business. We see that. I personally saw this with a lot of, for example, bookshops because I love reading books and I
Mm-hmm.
buy a lot of them. And I know that like at the start of the pandemic, a lot of the bookshops did not have like any online presence. You just went in person and bought them. And what we
Yeah.
saw in like 6 months was that a lot of them actually started creating their own basic website and started selling their books online or similar things. So they had to like adapt. And I think with the whole social media, AI, everything, businesses need to adapt and need to start evolving. Otherwise, they will get left behind.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I think it's quite important, right, to be where your audience is present, right? So not to interrupt. Basically, whenever you kind of trying to put your brand in front of your audience when the audience is not really ready to consume, right? Then you're kind of losing the attention span. So it's quite important to be, if your audience is using Instagram, right? It's quite important to be there just because that is the part of their journey. So you are not interrupting them. So yeah, and that is actually, I think, one of the biggest challenges that we have as marketers is kind of not only identifying our audience, right? Because more or less, each and every business knows what kind of, if we are not talking about early stages business, right? So we know what kind of target audiences, right? We'd love to engage with and we have currently, but the main problem, right? And I think, by the way, SEO is among those channels that is not really interrupting, the user journey. It's kind of integrated organically, right? In their, basically in their research process, right? Or it's kind of giving them the answer that they're asking for, rather than when it's happening with advertising, right? So with the paid ads, for instance, it's kind of interrupting, right? I don't know, I want to do this, and it's kind of, I have this big pop-up banner or something like that, right? So I think there are quite different ways of how you can interact with your audience in a genuine way, because it's quite important to do it in the right way, I think, nowadays.
I agree. I think SEO is, I think, one of the best demand capture channels and tools that every business and marketing team has. Is the most powerful one, because the user is searching for something around your business, your market, and is there to probably purchase at the end of that journey. So it's very powerful. There are paid campaigns and paid strategies that can be disruptive, but there are also maybe paid search campaigns that can continue to also support that demand capture
Absolutely.
side of things.
Yeah, I think it's more like how you can integrate, right, your campaign into your user's journey, and how well do you understand, right, what they do actually, whether it's online or offline, it doesn't matter, right? How well do you understand your audience? Because if you really kind of, know that they do exactly this, that, and then this in that, order, then you can find the right moment to put your brand in front of them, right? And I think that is kind of, that's the reason why it's quite important to actually to connect with the audience, to have conversations with them, and actually not only basically to delegate this to sales, reps, or to your customer support team, but being proactive as marketers with connecting with your target audience, and actually, instead of assuming, right, what they love or what they don't love, right, just kind of you actually having conversations with them, and really understanding what they are looking for, because the more you know, right, the better you can serve them.
Yeah, totally. I think definitely matching your work with your ICP is really important. I think one of the other things that I would say in terms of customer journey is that customer journey is rarely linear. And I think a lot of times as marketers, we do make the mistakes that we think of as customer journey, that someone starts at A and then they go to B and then they do the
Oh
C.
no.
I feel like a lot of people also like set up campaigns even that they have their multiple conversions and multiple conversion rates, and they expect the user to do all of these things in order. But I feel like one thing that's changing rapidly with the just the evolution of all the tools and social media and search is that the buyer journey is also much more complicated and much more difficult. People are being advertised to and marketed to. They open their inbox, they get like 20 spam emails from different companies trying to sell them things. They get calls, they get text messages. They're being bombarded with a lot of ads. And the other thing that is important is we have the demand gen side, and then we have the demand capture side. And it's important for business to have a holistic look at both building their brand and also capturing that demand through channels like SEO.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's, nowadays it's, the focus, I have to say, has shifted quite a lot from, from just kind of generating this number to kind of also attributing this or that number to a particular channel, right? And by the way, right, circling back to our main topic about membership size, right, and that is the search term, right? We are going to look at today at what kind of sites, right, ranks by this search term. I mean, on a general note, right, when we are talking about content creation market, how competitive is this market is? Because whenever we are talking about membership size, right, it's associated with this market, obviously, right? It's one of the main search terms, I would say, right? Main commercial search terms.
Yeah, definitely. I think that it's a very transactional term that can lead to a lot of the listicle articles talking about launching your membership site, different membership platforms. It's definitely a key term in the membership space and creator economy.
Yeah, okay. Let me then share my screen, right, so everyone can see what kind of websites we have, right? So basically, it's that is right. It should be membership sites. Let me change it because I was just looking at different things. Okay, so here it is. Oh well, the first thing that I kind of noticed, right, Amir, over there about search volumes, but most probably you can shed some light on this. It was right before, let's say, 2018, right, somewhere, right, it was the number of search volumes, right, were quite high, but kind of right now it's more on the same level. Do you know why, right? So here is my question.
It's an interesting thing. I was thinking about that as well.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that with this query specifically is interesting because the intent is very murky. We don't know what the intent is because it's such a high level keyword that
Mm-hmm.
someone could be like an end user looking to just find membership site examples that they can subscribe to, maybe, or find examples of that, or they're looking to maybe
Or
launch a membership
inspiration,
site,
right?
or maybe they're looking for membership platforms, membership
Mm-hmm.
site builders, or
Mm-hmm.
app builders. So I think it's the intent is very unknown here, not clear.
Yes, for
Um,
me as well. I think I would agree here just because based on the search engine results, right?
yeah, I think
So,
industry-wise, definitely creator economy space is growing, and there is more demand for memberships.
mm-hmm.
More people are launching subscription and membership sites than ever in the past couple years, especially the past, I would say, 2-3 years. So it is surprising that Ahrefs and some other tools are showing that the demand or the trend is much slower than before. But I think potentially in the market it is not the case.
Yeah, but kind of, whenever you are, let's say, content creator, right, you want to create some most probably cursor gated content. What are your options? You can go to a membership kind of platform, right? Or you can
Mhm.
create your own, or what else you can do, right? So there are anything else you can do? There is anything else you can do?
I mean, there are a couple ways you can use some membership platforms like Uscreen
Yeah,
that you can
yeah.
launch your
Mm-hmm.
branded site and apps. It's a platform. get
Mm-hmm.
a builder and everything is done for you. You
Mm-hmm.
don't need to code. There's possible ways to, for example, do that with WordPress and multiple
Mm-hmm.
plugins. So you can sort of like stick different plugins and do that. And there's also, you can also custom code all of that, which I don't think a lot of people do that. But I mean, the sky is the limit if you want to custom code.
Yeah, for sure. It requires some solid experience from one side and also some investment, because what are the average cost of buying a subscription? For instance, what will be how much is the cost of a basic subscription on Uscreen?
Yeah, we start at $100 a month, so
Or
it's not
$100?
super
Okay,
expensive. I think it's very easy
it's
for
more than
people to start.
affordable, I would say,
Yeah, it's
especially if
definitely
you are not
cheaper
sure,
than
right?
yeah, it's definitely cheaper than hiring a developer and trying
Oh
to
yeah.
like build use plugins and build that on your own.
By the way, if you look at basically, right, circling back to search engine results, I think there is no sense to discuss why HubSpot outranks the rest of other sites. It's I think quite obvious. It has a very very solid domain authority. Not talking about overall brand weight and so on. Then obviously a good number of referring domains and so on. But for me, what I notice, what I want to discuss is accessibility, accessibly, of course. Oh my gosh, it's accessibly, right? So,
I think it's Access
um,
Alley or I don't know.
accessibly, whatever it is, right? The new word, basically.
Yes.
Accessibly, right? And so I notice, if we look at the average domain rating, and I I looked at all those websites, and I don't really think if you agree with me that their domain ratings are kind of a fake metric. I think it's kind of in this situation, we can more or less rely on this, let's say, on what we see, in terms of domain ratings. And basically this page has a quite low domain rating, and not really an exceptional number of referring domains, not quite high. Why do you think this page is ranking at the top 3 results, even outranking, for instance, Uscreen?
I think I would say credit where credit is due. HubSpot post is definitely one post that stands out in this SERP, not only because
Mm-hmm.
their DR is good, but their content is very good. It's very extensive.
Mm-hmm.
They look at the membership site from different angles, from what is a membership site, the difference between membership and
Mm-hmm.
subscription, what it includes, how to launch this, examples of platforms and sites. So I feel like it has a very holistic view of that.
Mm-hmm.
With Access Alley, I think it's interesting because they also focus more on the actual what is and how side of membership sites.
Mm-hmm.
What is a membership site, and how to launch one, what the
Mm-hmm.
site will include, what are the examples of
Mm-hmm.
people that are doing it right, benefits of doing a membership website rather than maybe
Mm-hmm.
courses or for free, giving out your
Yeah.
content. So I think it's an interesting also way to attack that SERP and that keyword. And
Mm-hmm.
we can see that because the intent is unclear. Google is trying to throw multiple different pieces of content and
Mm-hmm.
multiple different ways of covering this term at the SERP to see what sticks. Um, in other cases here, we can see more websites that show examples of successful membership sites, not really the platform or how to side
Mm-hmm.
of it. For example, the Smart Blogger, we can
Mm-hmm.
see sites that heavily uh, go after the membership platform side of it. For example, Mighty Networks or
Mm-hmm.
Uscreen's posts, those are more targeting best membership platform as
Mm-hmm.
the, the top keyword in Ahrefs is showing, but Google still is ranking them for these because the intent is unclear. So Google wants to make sure that it's covering multiple users that have multiple different types of intent coming to this SERP.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. In terms of intent, it's obviously, I mean, like Google is not sure, most probably users are also kind of, doing it in different ways. As a result, we see what we see, right? The last thing that actually, I want to discuss is that even though, right, let's say like the biggest portion of website that we see right here, they are quite well established brands, right? So even like smart blogger or the rest of other websites, they kind of they have been on the market for quite some time.
True.
But what we see also is that each and every page, it has some referring domains right on top of that, which makes me feel that the estimation that actually Ahrefs puts here is not really correct. Do you think it's, in your opinion, do you think that a website, let's say with let's put any domain rating, let's say from 50 to 60, right, and having this number of 43, right, unique referring domains, even like really good ones, right? Let's say like quite good ones, decent ones, SEO meaningful ones. In my opinion, you won't be able to outrank, right, the current competition. But what do you think? I just interested in learning about your kind of opinion on this.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think links and domain ratings are not everything. I think it matters if the website is an authority in the membership
Mm-hmm.
space and topics around that. So, do you have topical authority? Because, for
Mm-hmm.
example, in the case of Access Alley, that we saw that they're ranking
Mm-hmm.
higher with the lower
Mm-hmm.
the domain rating. Uh, they are somewhat of a they do have somewhat of a topical authority because Access Alley, I do believe they have like a membership plugin for WordPress.
Yeah, they are
So they do
absolutely.
have content around membership site. It's not their first piece of content that they've written and maybe
Mm-hmm.
built some links to. So I think, yes, obviously domain rating and more links help, but more importantly, you need topical authority and very good quality content to be able to compete with those websites.
Yeah, for sure. But um, if we forget, right, that you basically, represent your screen, if there was kind of, basically a completely different brand that you kind of work on, what kind of content you will be choosing, right, to be in this SERP? Will be this is the same content that you have on your screen, or that will be something different?
I would say the content that that blog post has is not really targeting the
Mm-hmm.
membership sites keyword. It's more
Mm-hmm.
uh, targeting the keyword that it actually ranks for.
Mm-hmm.
So this is more like a, let's say, happy accident that it shows
Okay,
up
I
there.
see.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
uh, but if we were to target this, I would start by looking at other probably poster. We saw that I think HubSpot has a really strong
Mm-hmm.
holistic view at this type of terms. It's unclear intent, and they do a good job of
Mm-hmm.
adding a lot of information around membership site. I would potentially start with the what and the hows and include both examples of website builders and membership site examples. I would potentially use more storytelling to show different
Mm-hmm.
ways that creators have launched membership sites, what kind of personal, professional successes and failures potentially they've seen through that journey. I would
Mm-hmm.
potentially use more industry data to showcase the values that membership sites have, either that's the industry trends or revenue generated or money that they can make.
Mm-hmm.
I would potentially also look into ways that you could make this a more interactive content. Obviously, you don't go all out for all keywords, but for example, let's say membership sites, it's a good keyword for a
Mm-hmm.
business like Uscreen or other creator economy platforms that
Mm-hmm.
operate in that space to rank for. So I think that's where you potentially want to spend more money, invest resources, and get something good. And yeah, I think storytelling, data, making sure that you have a holistic content that delivers uh, the content and information to the users that have this very unclear intent for this
Mm-hmm.
keyword is important. And if you can make it interactive through more graphics, even tools to get people engaged on the page and get them thinking and seeing the values that potentially your tool or the tools that you're affiliated with can present, then that's a good place to start.
Yeah, yeah, I agree that everything starts actually, right, with the creating a more competitive content piece. Just, you analyze the current search engine results, right? You kind of try to find their weak spots, right? So, and you basically, take the best parts, right, that they've done right, and also it's quite important to put some unique spin on this EAT, right? So if you have anything that you can actually add, right, to make it, you know, to put your expertise right in front of your target audience, then that will also be a huge, right, benefit. Um, so yeah, I think in that way, and then most probably, right, if right you see that this content piece is kind of like in some way Google picks it up, right? Kind of giving some impressions, right? But if you one more time, if you feel that the current level of visibility, the current level of impressions is not really the one that you'd love to have, right? Most probably, maybe your page authority, your domain authority, right, doesn't allow you to outrun the current competition, then you for sure can add, right, additional links to make this page more visible. But right, you have to start with creating a solid foundation. And I think, one more time, circling back to content creators, you have to create something meaningful, right? And it doesn't matter whether you are an SEO specialist, right, or you're trying to, to sell, right, your knowledge to your audience, right? As a content creator, it's quite important to make sure that it's really bringing, right, something, most probably something meaningful to your audience, right?
That's true. That's true. And yeah, I think both, if you're not ranking, that both it could be a link problem, also could be a brand problem. Maybe you don't have
Weak
maybe you're
content.
not an authority. Yes, content problem, and also yet brand and topical authority. We know that it is big as is for Google, especially for a lot of terms that have to do with finances and making money
Yeah.
or health. Google definitely values brands that have quality content and have been consistently putting out good quality content. They have a lot of mentions on authoritative websites, links, and they have a good idea. And I think, especially with the future of search, more generative search and AI, there will be a lot more weight on the authority side of things, ensuring that whatever they mention in their content or in their answers is an authoritative website, and it's not just any website, and it makes sense for the end
Yeah.
users.
Yeah, for sure. Because whenever you basically write, you kind of give priority to websites that represent real brands, right? And they have a solid footprint. It's kind of, you kind of having more guarantees, I would say, right, in terms of the quality of content, because they kind of should care more, right? So the assumption that, you know, real good brands, well-known brands should care more about the quality of their content, because if their content is not up to date, misleading, or something like that, they can't really, right, generate, you know, they can't really convert users, right? So as for me, right, you know, kind of in a lot of situations, right, content plays a significant role, and the quality of content plays a significant role, just because it's not only about, right, ranking at the top results, right? It's all about what's next, right? Whether it's possible to persuade a user to move forward, right, with your brand, to choose your brand, to choose your services, either your product.
Totally
So,
true.
and
Yeah,
yeah, and I think a lot of SEO guys, right, just to sum this up, they kind of forget about this, because the focus, right, is not really on the right things. They think, okay, I just want to rank by this search term, and here is the page, and I don't really care much about the quality of this page, just because my final goal is just to be visible, right? But you know, the main problem is what's next, right? Okay, you're ranking, you're outranking everyone, but this page is not really generating, right, any leads, just because, you know, a user kind of opens this and kind of and closing, right?
that is true. And also the other thing that I think you pointed out to is that content is not just for ranking. Your content is not just to, like, maybe even bring only organic search traffic. Your content can be used in so many different ways. Your sales team can use your content to close deals. Your customer success team can use your content to educate customers. Your content doesn't live in a silo for one specific purpose. The content lives and has so many variety of different use cases and different values that it can add. So it's important to, like, value that medium and not only create content that just ranks. I think definitely the time that those kind of strategies work is close to over, if not over, and you need to create quality content that resonates with people, is high quality, is fresh, you show your expertise, it's authoritative, and it adds value to anyone that lands on it.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. And thank you very much, Amir, for joining us today. So I think the bottom line, right, is that you have to start with actually, you know, investing enough in your content. And then only, you know, you can switch to other channels, right, to link building, whatever it is you want, a digital PR, right? Because, you know, if you don't really have a solid foundation, then the rest of other, you know, efforts most probably won't lead to something meaningful. That will be the biggest waste of your time.
Yeah, totally
So,
well said.
yeah, thank you very much, Amir, for being with us today. It was a pure pleasure, and hope to see you among our guests in the future too. And wishing you a very, very nice evening. And thank you very much, guys, for joining us today too.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you. Have a nice